I am thankful to IBMR for inviting me to deliver this Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan's memorial lecture on Teachers' Day. Respected Chairman Mr. Diyesh Gupta, Vice Chairman Abhijit Sensor, my dear colleagues and student community. I joined this institute amidst COVID time. Unfortunately, due to this COVID-19 virus, we are unable to meet in a kind of formal gathering. Today is a fortunate moment. At least we are able to meet in this webinar. We are able to exchange each other through this webinar. Now, to start formally delivering my lecture, as decided by the Institute, today I am supposed to deliver a brief lecture on COVID-19 pandemic and managing supply chain disruption. The ongoing COVID-19 disease has impacted every walk of life across the world. It has disrupted the usual way of human life. Among many other facts it has been brought to light is that supply chains function as the veins and arteries of our economy. Once this virus disease clogged the veins and arteries of the body of global economy, societies and business across the world have faced unprecedented challenges. The decisions of lockdown undertaken by many national governments at the early stage of the pandemic to stop spreading the disease and save human lives is well understood. However, it's a known fact that the lockdown impacted the life of common mass in a multiple way. Individuals, for instance, have dealt with a range of challenges in their life, from self-isolation to difficulties in stocking up their essentials. Some business, mainly from the hospitality sector, have failed to survive because of the slowdown in trade, while other business have had to fight hard to supply the population's need, including farms, retailers, third-party logistics, and the members of healthcare sector, supply chains, etc. In fact, no one could escape the impact of this disruption. We may call it as an act of nature or an act of God. Again, some skeptical group put it as an act of evil hands of some human beings. Whatever may be the truth lying behind this, but the fact is that there was no way to predict it in advance. As we are aware, in 2019, according to the Regional Risks for Doing Business report, cybersecurity was identified as the greatest threat to the business. However, when the pandemic such as coronavirus surfaced, we find COVID-19 as the most significant source of external risks to smooth operation of supply chains and doing business. Therefore, it is important to learn lesson from this disruption caused by the COVID-19 in order to build up a smarter and more resilient support chains in the coming days. As we all know, COVID-19 has not only disrupted the global supply chain, but is also generating spillover effect throughout different levels of suppliers' networks. It has been forecasted by WTO that global trade in 2020 will fall in every region of the world and will affect all sectors of the economy. This will impact equally both groups of countries that are strong exporters and importers. The World Trade Organization expects global trade to fall up to 32% this year due to the coronavirus pandemic. Furthermore, due to this pandemic and associated global healthcare crisis, supply chains have faced significant disruption in the upstream, that is, due to lack of raw material supply to the manufacturers, while hoarding and panic buying cause equally significant disruption to the downstreams. Due to this disruption, short-term real-time focus daily and weekly about the pandemic and its effect on the supply chain have become a very important managerial and policy making imperatives. Mid and long-term focus are also very essential for supply chains planning at monthly, quarterly, and annual basis. However, research on these is more likely to be conclusive after the first wave of pandemic is over and when more and more reliable supply chain data becomes available. Perhaps now we are approaching towards the time of more and more reliable data collection for proper understanding of the impacts of supply chain disruptions and also designing a proper module for intervention. It's a matter of general understanding that an accurate focus of the evolutions of the new number of virus cases enables the more effective management of the resulting excess demand across supply chain. Recent experience also suggests that the accelerations and the progressions of the COVID-19 cases across countries drive changes in immediate and actual needs and also in consumers' behavior. Therefore, forecasting during pandemic becomes essential for effective governmental decision for managing supply chain resources, and such information is very important for difficult political decision making such as imposing lockdowns or curfew timings, etc. Yet, forecasting the evolutions of the pandemic and the growth of the number of cases per country or even greater spatial or geographical regions details is a complex task because of limited history of pandemic data and the multidimensionality of the problem. For instance, there are several and at times unknown factors that affects the contagiousness and the severity of the disease. To that end, forecasting in real time and making new data available is a complex exercise for both government and supply chain managers. Epidemiologists have been applying traditional model for outbreak prediction. Applied mathematicians, decision scientists, and operational researchers have been employing time series and machine learning techniques. As a result, for COVID-19, since the onset of this crisis, we see that a few statistical and regression-based forecasts have been made available online. Yet, despite of this contribution of model building exercise for predicting the progress of the virus and its impact on the supply chain, the, their proliferation generates more confusion in reality. The most profound manifestation of these confusions have been the different approach taken by the companies and government to deal with the pandemic. For example, timing and extensions of lockdown, process of reporting the reopening of the economy, and there are wider differences and often confusing views about the onset of a second waves. This has been exacerbated by the wide recognition that different countries and even different regions are structurally diverse. Thus, using a single forecasting model may not actually predict how pandemic evolves. As a result, there is an emergence and urgent needs for, on the one hand, more of these models, and on the other hand, a methodology that enables decision makers to select the one which is likely to be more applicable in their own context. Here we can say that the contribution of the management expert is more pertinent in developing the situational based model development for a country or a particular region. Now, saying so about the broader impacts of COVID 19 at global level, it is pertinent to focus on Indian context. We all know that our country is a big exporter of raw materials, an importer of capital goods or semi-finished intermediary goods in various sectors such as pharmaceuticals, automobiles, electronics, and chemical products. According to one recent study, China accounts for 27% of India's automobile part imports. India imports about 85% of the active pharmaceutical ingredients from China. Due to this factor, there is a possibility of shortage in availability and price hikes is imminent. Not only that, due to the ongoing disruption in the supply chain, the business is also hampering with the production cycle that will further affect the investment. There is about 55% of electronics goods which are imported from China, and that has been slid down significantly due to policy decisions of the government and change in the consumer's mood or demand. Of course, we are not only the country to suffer from this. For example, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles have already announced for a temporary shutdown of their production in Siberia as the parts of imported from China could not reach in their factory line on time. Similarly, Hyundai has also announced to suspend their assembly line in Korea due to disruptions of the supply chain because of this COVID-19. The effect of this COVID virus is already visible to the world as there is a decrease in 40% of departure from the ports of China due to the COVID outbreak, which is showing that there is a major effect in the manufacturing sectors worldwide. In this context, we must see that the supply chain disruption doesn't cause only in the sector of flow of materials. It equally impacted in the flow of information as well as financial flow, which are of course the integral aspect of the supply chain management. Thus, the disruption in the information flow constraint the supply chain managers and also logjam in usually smooth run financial flow mechanism put the task of financial manager in a difficult situation. In short, it exacerbated the whole process of the supply chain in a big way. In this context, designing a remedial intervention and building up of resilient supply chain management process will require accurate flow of information, reassessment of the associated risks, and deeper understanding of some other factors like political economy. Here we enter into the domain of interdisciplinary research for a better outcome in terms of our decision making exercise. And at the end, I think it's ought to mention a little bit about the changes in the regional economic bloc and some specter of changes in the political economy, as the relationship between the countries impact the business and subsequent supply chains. So evaluations and forecasting of any futuristic model of supply chain management depends to a large extent on our understanding of international relations and political economy. After the COVID pandemic, it seems that the states and governments are in a mood of developing self-reliant economy. The pace of economic globalization and interdependency model seems to be put on hold. Our Prime Minister has also declared Atmanirbhar Bharat. More and more countries and governments seems to be opting for traditional import substitution and export promotion model instead of interdependent globalized economic model. So the future of supply chain management process may need to cross-check the factor in the post-COVID era of business development. With this remark, I conclude my humble presentation here. Thank you.